Do you ever feel like something isn't quite right? Like the world around you is real, but somehow artificial? Maybe you're not truly living your life, but following a script written by invisible hands. Today, you'll remember something your soul already knows: how to escape the matrix and reclaim your power. There is a system, not made of wires or walls, but of ideas. It doesn't imprison your body. It teaches you to imprison yourself. It feeds you goals that aren't yours. It convinces you that freedom means fulfilling expectations. It offers comfort in exchange for your truth. This is the matrix. But before you see it outside, you must recognize it within. Because the real cage is not out there. It lives in conditioning, in repeated thoughts, in inherited fears, in the shoulds you carry like chains. Let me tell you about Alex. Alex had everything society told him he needed: a corner office on the 32nd floor overlooking a city that never slept, a salary that afforded him the apartment in the right neighborhood, the car that turned heads, the weekend trips to places that looked perfect on Instagram. By every external measure, Alex was winning. Yet every morning, as he stood in his marble bathroom adjusting his tie, he felt like he was putting on a costume. Not just his clothes, but his entire identity: the successful professional, the reliable friend, the person who had it all figured out. The most insidious cage is the one that feels like freedom. Alex's life wasn't bad, it was comfortable. And comfort, he would learn, is the most sophisticated form of control ever devised. Because when you're comfortable, you don't question. When you're comfortable, you don't explore. When you're comfortable, you mistake survival for living. The matrix doesn't need to break you. It just needs to make you content enough. This video is not an attack on the system. It's a call to your awakening, a reminder that you are free, that you have always been. Here, we won't talk about conspiracy theories. We'll talk about the invisible choices you make every day and how each one is a key to your liberation. You want to escape the matrix? Then stop fighting the world outside and start deprogramming the world within. There comes a moment, maybe you felt it, when everything looks the same, but nothing feels the same. When routine becomes a golden cage. When you look in the mirror and miss yourself. For Alex, it happened on a Tuesday. Nothing special about the day, that was the point. He was sitting in his usual coffee shop, ordering his usual drink, watching the usual stream of people hurrying to their usual destinations. The barista smiled the same practice smile. The businessman next to him scrolled through the same endless feed. The world was a perfectly functioning machine. And Alex felt nothing. Not sadness, not anger, just absence. Like he was watching his life through bulletproof glass, present but not participating, alive but not living. That's the first crack, the whisper of your true self trying to wake up. The psychology of numbness, spiritual cognitive dissonance. What Alex was experiencing has a name: spiritual cognitive dissonance. It's the psychological friction that occurs when your soul knows you're living inauthentically, but your mind insists everything is fine. Inhale. The modern world has become a sophisticated matrix anesthetic. We're drowning in distraction, endless scrolling, binge watching, the glorification of being busy. These aren't accidents. They're features of a system designed to keep you from sitting still long enough to feel the quiet desperation beneath the surface. Think about it. When was the last time you were truly bored? When was the last time you sat in silence without reaching for your phone? The Matrix has learned that a restless soul is a dangerous soul, so it keeps you entertained, stimulated, always consuming but never truly satisfied. Alex realized he hadn't been bored in years. Every moment was filled with something: podcasts during his commute, music during his workouts, Netflix during his downtime. The silence terrified him because in silence, he could hear what he'd been avoiding, the voice of his authentic self asking uncomfortable questions. Is this really living? When did I become so small? What happened to my dreams? You realize your life has been staged like a showroom. Degrees, status, routine, all arranged to look impressive from the outside. But what about the invisible? Who are you when no one's watching? When there's no performance to maintain, no image to uphold? Inhale. Alex started noticing things. How he checked his phone not because he wanted to, but because his hand moved automatically. How he laughed at jokes that weren't funny because that's what was expected. How he said, "I'm fine," when people asked how he was, even though the question itself felt foreign. When was the last time anyone had asked what he actually felt? The restlessness wasn't depression, it was recognition. His soul tapping on the glass, reminding him, this isn't you. The Matrix isn't the government. It's not the media. It's the sum of every voice that told you who you should be. From the start, they said, be productive, don't question, obey to be loved. Without noticing, you took those lines as truth, and over time, forgot who wrote them. Alex began to see the invisible architecture of his life, how his career path had been chosen not by passion, but by fear. Fear of disappointing his parents, fear of not measuring up, fear of financial insecurity. How his relationships were performed rather than felt. Networking disguised as friendship, dates that felt like job interviews for the position of perfect partner. The architecture of your programming. To truly escape, you must understand how the programming was installed. It wasn't a single moment of indoctrination. It was a gradual layering of conditioning from 3 primary sources. Familial programming, the foundation. Your family didn't mean to program you. They were passing down their own inherited patterns, their own survival strategies learned from their parents, who learned from theirs. Alex's father had grown up during a recession. Security meant everything to him. Love in his household was expressed through provision and protection. I love you was said through working overtime, through sacrificing personal desires for family stability. The unspoken message Alex absorbed: your worth is determined by your ability to provide security. His mother, brilliant, but having sacrificed her own career dreams for family, unconsciously passed on the belief that dreams were luxuries, that practical choices were the only responsible ones. The message, following your passion, is selfish. These weren't cruel people. They were doing their best with the tools they had. But the programming was clear. Love equals security. Security equals sacrifice. Sacrifice equals virtue. Dreams equal danger. Educational programming, the conditioning. For 13 years, Alex sat in classrooms where the message was consistent. There is one right answer. Authority is not to be questioned. Your value comes from external validation, grades, test scores, approval from teachers. The educational system wasn't designed to create thinkers. It was designed to create compliant workers. Sit still, raise your hand, follow instructions, don't color outside the lines. Creativity was channeled into approved outlets. Critical thinking was discouraged unless it led to the correct conclusion. Individual expression was celebrated only when it didn't disrupt the system. By graduation, Alex had learned to be a perfect student, which meant being a perfect follower. He could execute instructions flawlessly, but he'd never learned to question whether the instructions were worth following. Cultural programming, the mythology. The final layer came from the culture itself. The mythology of success sold through media, advertising, and social conditioning. Success looks like a corner office. Happiness comes from consumption. Love is earned through achievement. Your worth is measured by your productivity. Busy equals important. More equals better. Alex absorbed these myths like oxygen. He never questioned whether they were true. They were simply the water he swam in. The cultural programming was so pervasive, so constant, that it became invisible. The most insidious programming isn't what they tell you to do. It's what they teach you to want. He remembered being 7 years old, building elaborate worlds with blocks, losing himself for hours in pure creation. When did he stop building? When did he start maintaining? When did wonder become worry? The Matrix had convinced him that success meant climbing a ladder he never chose, toward a destination he never questioned.
It had taught him to measure his worth by productivity, his value by achievement, his identity by what others thought of him. The most powerful matrix is the one that convinces you you're awake, when really, you're just functioning. Alex was functioning perfectly, efficiently, productively, but he wasn't living. He was executing a program written by people who had never met him, based on values that weren't his, pursuing goals that left him empty even when achieved.
Awakening doesn't mean screaming freedom. It means whispering, "I found myself." It's realizing thoughts aren't facts, that pain can be a teacher, that anxiety is your body trying to pull you away from a life that isn't yours. For Alex, the awakening came in whispers, not revelations. Small moments of clarity that accumulated like dewdrops on a spider's web. The first whisper came during a meeting that could have been an email, discussing a project that wouldn't matter in a month, with people who were also pretending to care. As his colleague droned on about quarterly projections, Alex found himself watching the way sunlight moved across the conference room wall. Such simple beauty, completely unnoticed by everyone else in their urgency to get somewhere else. When did I stop noticing light? He wondered. The second whisper came when he canceled a networking event and went for a walk instead. No destination, no purpose except to move. As his feet found their rhythm on the sidewalk, his mind began to quiet. For the first time in months, he could hear himself think, not the constant chatter of tasks and obligations, but the deeper voice underneath. What do I actually want? It asked. Not what he should want, not what would impress others. What did he want? You start to hear the subtle voice, your intuition, the soul's call. And for the first time, you pause, you breathe, and you ask, who would I be if I wasn't trying to please anyone? That's the beginning, the turning point, the return inward. Alex started experimenting with small rebellions, saying no to invitations that drained him, saying yes to conversations that energized him, choosing the book over the Netflix show, choosing silence over noise, choosing presence over productivity. Each choice was a tiny revolution. Each moment of authenticity was a crack in the programming. Escaping the matrix is a process, and it begins with 3 fundamental shifts. 1, disidentification. You are not your programming. You are not the fear, not the trauma, not the image built for approval. You are the witness, the one who sees. The most radical act is stepping back from your own thoughts and asking, whose voice is this? Alex learned to practice what spiritual teachers call the observer's self. When anxiety arose about his career, instead of being consumed by it, he would pause and notice, there is anxiety here. Not, I am anxious, which makes anxiety your identity, but anxiety is present. This simple shift creates space between you and your experience. The neuroscience of freedom. Here's what happens in your brain when you practice observation. Every time you notice a thought without being consumed by it, you're literally rewiring your neural pathways. Neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to form new connections and weaken old ones. The programmed thoughts, the fears, the shoulds, the inherited patterns, they're like well-worn paths in your mind. Every time you follow them, you make them stronger. But every time you observe them without following, you begin to create new pathways. The old pattern, thought arises, automatic reaction, reinforcement of programming. The new pattern, thought arises, observation, conscious choice, new neural pathway. Practical technique, the observer's journal. Here's a practice Alex developed. Every evening, he would write for 10 minutes from the perspective of his observer self. Not, I felt anxious today, but there was anxiety in the body today. It seemed to be responding to the meeting with the boss.
The anxiety felt like a tightness in the chest and a racing of thoughts. This subtle shift in language from I am to there is creates profound psychological distance. You begin to see that you are not your emotions, your thoughts, or your patterns. You are the awareness that observes them all. When Alex started this practice, he was shocked to discover how much of his internal dialogue wasn't his. The voice that said he wasn't working hard enough sounded exactly like his father. The voice that criticized his appearance echoed his high school classmates. The voice that told him he needed to be perfect to be loved was a compilation of every disappointed authority figure he had ever encountered. These weren't his thoughts. They were inherited patterns, and patterns can be changed.
Releasing external validation, the approval addiction. The matrix feeds on your need for approval. When you stop trying to be enough for others, its grip weakens. This is perhaps the most challenging aspect of deprogramming, because the need for belonging is primal. We're wired for connection, and the matrix exploits this by convincing us that love is conditional, that we must earn it through performance. Alex discovered he had built his entire identity around being useful to others. He was the friend who always said yes, the employee who always stayed late, the son who always met expectations. He had confused being needed with being loved. Nice versus kind, the crucial distinction. There's a difference between being nice and being kind that most people never learn. Being nice is a matrix tactic. It's people-pleasing, designed to avoid conflict, to maintain approval, to keep everyone comfortable. Kind is authentic truth-telling that serves the highest good, even when it's difficult. Nice says yes when it means no. Kind says no when it means no. Nice avoids difficult conversations. Kind initiates them when necessary. Nice protects others from truth. Kind offers truth with compassion. Alex faced this distinction when his friend Marcus asked him to invest in a business venture that Alex knew was doomed to fail. The old Alex, the nice Alex, would have said yes to avoid disappointing Marcus, even though it would have hurt both of them financially. But the awakening Alex chose kindness. He sat with Marcus over coffee and said, "I care about you too much to invest in something I don't believe in. Let me tell you what I see, and maybe we can figure out a better path together." The conversation was uncomfortable. Marcus was initially hurt, but by being kind instead of nice, Alex gave Marcus the gift of honest feedback that actually helped him see the flaws in his plan. Their friendship deepened through truth rather than enabling. The practice of conscious disappointment. The practice here is learning to disappoint people consciously. Not out of cruelty, but out of authenticity. Start small. Don't laugh at jokes that aren't funny. Don't agree with opinions you don't share. Don't attend events that drain you just to maintain appearances. Each time you choose authenticity over approval, you strengthen your connection to yourself. And paradoxically, the more you stop seeking external validation, the more genuine connections you attract. The matrix tells you that if you're not pleasing everyone, you're failing. The truth is, if you're pleasing everyone, you're disappearing. Consider your choices as sacred acts. Every decision is a vote, a new code in your reality. This is where the abstract becomes practical. Your life is the sum of your choices, and most of your choices have been unconscious, based on habit, fear, or social programming. Alex started treating his daily decisions as sacred acts. Instead of automatically reaching for his phone in the morning, he would pause and ask, "What do I actually want right now?" Instead of accepting every social invitation out of obligation, he would consider, will this nourish me or drain me? The energetic signature of choice. Here's something most people never learn. Your body is a sophisticated guidance system. Choices made from fear feel physically contracting. Tightness in the chest, tension in the shoulders, a sinking feeling in the stomach. Choices made from love and authenticity feel expansive. Openness in the chest, relaxation in the body, a sense of rightness. Alex learned to check in with his body before making decisions. When his boss offered him a promotion that would mean longer hours and more responsibility, Alex's first instinct was to say yes immediately. But he had learned to pause.
He closed his eyes and imagined accepting the promotion. His chest tightened. His breathing became shallow. His body was telling him this wasn't aligned with his authentic path. Then he imagined politely declining and instead proposing a lateral move that would give him more creative control. His chest opened. His breathing deepened. His body was guiding him toward authenticity. The body-based decision practice. Here's a simple technique you can use. Before making any decision, pause and ask 3 questions. Is this choice aligned with who I'm becoming? Check your mind. Am I choosing from love or from fear? Check your heart. How does this choice feel in my body? Check your physical response. Close your eyes and imagine following through with the choice. Notice what happens in your body. Expansion or contraction, lightness or heaviness, energy or depletion. Your body doesn't lie. It's been programmed by millions of years of evolution to guide you toward what serves your highest good. The Matrix has taught you to ignore these signals, to override your intuition with logic and social expectations. Your dietary choices become a form of self-respect. Your media consumption becomes curation of your mental environment. Your social interactions become conscious cultivation of energy. Alex discovered that even small changes created ripple effects. Choosing to read instead of scroll social media improved his sleep, which improved his mood, which improved his relationships. Choosing to cook instead of ordering takeout connected him to the simple pleasure of nourishment, which reminded him that life was meant to be savored, not consumed. You rewrite the matrix by choosing with awareness. Each no said with presence, each yes said with truth is a return to center, to command, to self.
You're not here by accident. If this message stirred you, part of you is already awake. 6 months after his awakening began, Alex barely recognized his life. Not because everything had changed dramatically. He still had bills to pay, responsibilities to meet. But because he had changed. He moved through the same world with different eyes. The corner office was still on the 32nd floor, but now he noticed how the light changed throughout the day. The meetings were still about quarterly projections, but he spoke up when he had something valuable to contribute and stayed silent when he didn't. The coffee shop still served the same drinks, but now he tasted them. And now you know. The Matrix is no longer your prison. It's just a stage. And you are the screenwriter. Freedom doesn't live outside. It is born the moment you say, I choose me. I remember who I am. I define my future. Living as the screenwriter, not the character. The deepest transformation occurs when you realize you're not just living your life, you're writing it. The old Alex was a character in a story he didn't understand, reacting to circumstances he felt powerless to change. The new Alex was the screenwriter, consciously crafting his narrative with each choice. This shift became crystallized during what could have been a devastating setback. Alex's company was restructuring, and his position was eliminated. In the past, this would have sent him into panic mode, frantically updating his resume, accepting any job offer, defining his worth by his employment status. But the screenwriter Alex saw this differently. He paused and asked, what is this teaching me? What new direction might this be calling me toward? The old Alex would have seen this as a catastrophe. The new Alex saw it as a plot twist, an opportunity for the story to take an unexpected turn towards something more authentic. Instead of immediately seeking another corporate position, Alex took a month to reflect. He used his severance pay to travel, to write, to reconnect with parts of himself that had been dormant for years. He remembered his love of photography, his interest in sustainable living, his desire to help others. When he finally returned to work, it was with a small environmental nonprofit. Less money, but more meaning. The screenwriter Alex had used the setback to write himself into a more aligned life.
This is the essence of awakened living. You understand that you are both the author and the protagonist of your story. External circumstances become raw material for your conscious creation, rather than determinants of your worth. Alex learned that escaping the matrix wasn't about rejecting the world. It was about engaging with it consciously. He didn't quit his job in a dramatic gesture. He transformed his relationship to it. He didn't abandon all his relationships. He showed up to them more authentically. The matrix had taught him to live in the future, always working towards some distant goal that would finally make him happy. Awakening taught him to live in the present, to find meaning in the moment, purpose in the process, joy in the journey. And in this new frequency, you no longer need to prove. You simply live with presence, with truth, with soul. You've already escaped. The very act of seeing is liberation. Alex's story isn't finished, it's just beginning. Because awakening isn't a destination, it's a way of traveling. Every day he chooses again. Every moment he remembers again. Every breath he returns to himself again. The matrix will offer you comfortable cages for the rest of your life. The promotion that comes with golden handcuffs. The relationship that looks perfect but feels empty. The lifestyle that impresses others but exhausts you. But now you know the secret. You are the screenwriter of your own existence. Every choice is a line of dialogue. Every decision is a plot point. Every moment of consciousness is a scene where you get to choose who you want to be. Now walk, one awakened step at a time, away from old scripts into your truth. You're no longer a character inside the matrix. You are awakened consciousness, and that can never be taken from you. The matrix will still be there tomorrow, offering its comfortable cages and familiar fears. But you'll see it now for what it is. Not a prison, but a playground. Not a trap, but a teacher. Not your master, but your mirror. When you feel the pull of old patterns, remember Alex's story. Remember that awakening isn't about perfection, it's about consciousness. It's not about never making mistakes, it's about making them consciously, learning from them, and choosing differently next time. The people around you who are still sleeping in the matrix, treat them with compassion. You were asleep once too. Your awakening is not a judgment of their choices, but an invitation for them to remember their own power. Some will be ready to hear the call, others will choose to stay comfortable. Both are perfect. Your job is not to wake up others, it's to stay awake yourself. Welcome to your life. The real one. The one you write with every conscious choice, every authentic moment, every brave act of being yourself. You are free. You have always been free. Now, live like it. The screenwriter is awake. The character is transformed. The story begins now. The awakening has begun. And it starts with you. Cut, print, action. Subscribe to the channel and hit that bell, because awakening is just the beginning. In the next video, we'll dive even deeper. The pain you feel is a sacred signal. Here's what it's trying to reveal. You'll discover the invisible patterns that might still be controlling your life, and the practical tools to break free from each one of them. In the comments below, tell me which moment resonated with you most in this video. Was it when Alex realized he was living on autopilot? Was it when he learned the difference between being nice and being kind? Or was it when he chose to use his dismissal as an opportunity for redirection? Your journey matters. Your story matters. And this community is here to support you every step of the way. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. Thousands of people around the world are awakening, choosing authenticity over approval, choosing consciousness over conformity. Subscribe now. Your transformation has already begun. See you in the next video, screenwriter of your own life.